Hi friends, happy Friday! It is Miss Spoleti here, back to read chapters 2 and 3 of Ungifted. So the first chapter already got me hooked. So far, if you didn't read the first chapter, go back and go to Miss Spoleti Read Aloud Chapter 1 so you can listen to that. If you want a quick overview, our main character, Donovan, he's a little bit of a troublemaker. And he hit the statue on the school grounds with a stick, and that statue was holding a big globe that was super heavy because it's a statue. And that globe was rolling down into the parking lot. But then he stops it, and now it's rolling down into the biggest game that their school has, and it's a basketball game. So there's so many people there, and it's not looking good for Donovan right now. So we left off at kind of like a cliffhanger. We don't know what's going to happen to Donovan. We just probably know it's going to be bad. But on my last video, I asked you to think of a character trait for Donovan and comment below. And some of you did, which I'm so happy. So if you have a character trait in mind from chapter 1, I want you to think about that character trait, and when we're reading today, think about if that character trait still holds true for Donovan in chapters 2 and 3. We'll see. So our next chapter, chapter 2, is called Unidentified, Dr. Schultz, IQ 127. So let's see who this Dr. Schultz is. To be the superintendent of a school district like Hardcastle, with its 47 buildings and more than 30,000 students, was a huge responsibility. A lot of the administrators would have hundreds of complicated rules to follow. I only had one: no screw-ups. So when I took time out of my busy schedule and burdensome duties to attend a middle school basketball game, I expected to see orderly students, good sportsmanship, and happy alumni. Alumni are the people that already went to that school and graduated. So this is such a big game that even people that graduated are coming back and watching it. What I did not expect to see was a giant metal ball blasting into the gym, scattering players like 10 pins. Not only did it create a dangerous situation, but it also reflected very badly on the Hardcastle schools. So this is definitely Dr. Schultz talking, and not Donovan, because Donovan would have a very different idea about how this situation is. He would have probably thought it was funny. So this is Dr. Schultz talking, just remember that. So no one was injured, thank goodness. Still, there was a lot of chaos as the parents of the players rushed to their sons on the floor in an effort to protect them from whatever this onslaught was. I knew instantly that globe was part of the statue of Atlas that stood on the knoll overlooking the school, and it certainly hadn't rolled itself down to the gym. I raced through the shattered door and onto the lawn. I could see the ribbon of crushed grass all the way back to the figure of Atlas, who looked peculiar, bent under the weight of absolutely nothing. The culprit lay in the flattened path, raised up on his elbows, staring at the damaged gilt. "You there," I called. The boy tried to scramble up and run, but he couldn't get any traction on the squashed turf. By the time he found his feet, I was upon him, and he was caught. "Come with me into my office." His shoulders slumped. Yeah, okay. He looked as worried as he ought to be. I drew some small satisfaction from that. The administration building was on the very same campus, but the boy didn't speak on the way over there, not even to protest his innocence. A fat lot of good that would have done him. I had him dead to rights, and the evidence, a 400-pound brown sphere and the damage it had caused, spoke plainly about what he had done. At last, he reached my office, and I glared at him across my desk. Do you know who I am? He shook his head and had the grace to look a little scared. I am Dr. Schultz, superintendent of the Hardcastle Independent School District, and I have your name and your school's name right now. Donovan Curtis. I go here. I mean, Hardcastle Middle, where it happened. I wrote the information on a piece of paper on the cluttered desk in front of me. Well, Donovan Curtis, I don't have to tell you that you're in big trouble right now. You're lucky that no one was hurt or even killed by that stunt of yours. Why would you do such a thing? It was an accident. If he thought he could get away with an excuse like that, he had picked the wrong administrator. A giant metal ball doesn't plow through a building by accident. He spoke up again. I hit the statue with the branch, but I didn't think the world would fall. You didn't think? My secretary, Mrs. de Bourbon, came bustling in, looking worried. I'm sorry to disturb you, Dr. Schultz, but you're needed urgently back in the gym. Someone called the fire department from a cell phone, and you're the only one with the authority to send them away. She frowned. Nothing's on fire, is it? No, of course not. I was halfway to the door when I hesitated. What to do with the boy? He was looking hopeful, as if he were home free. But believe me, he was not. It would serve him right if I left him sitting here, cooling his heels, while I went out to deal with the mess he'd made. But who knew how long that would take? By now, those firefighters could be finding code violations in the gym, and I had a dinner meeting across town. I scurried him with my most severe expression. You can go. I'll send for you tomorrow morning, and we can continue this discussion. He was out of there like a shot. I wasn't far behind him. I'm sorry to bother you again, said Mrs. de Bourbon, but Student Services needs the list of new candidates for the gifted program. I sighed. Did everything have to pass through me? I was only one person. It's on my desk, Cynthia. You can't miss it. What a nightmare. There was damage to the gym floor in addition to the doors, which were a total loss. The foundry that had made the statue had gone out of business 5 years ago. So good luck getting a replacement globe for Atlas. The district's insurance agent was on vacation for the next 2 weeks. I missed my dinner meeting and my dinner. By the time I got back to my office, I was almost insane with aggravation. This was exactly why I couldn't tolerate screw-ups. There was no such thing as just one. The first led to the second, and pretty soon they were complications. I needed to accomplish one real thing on this miserable day, and I knew exactly what that was going to be. I was going to call that boy's parents and let them know the damage and chaos their son's vandalism had caused. I scanned my desk for the paper where I'd written his name. It was gone. I scoured every item on that desk, and not just once, nothing. Cynthia! But she had already left for the day. How could this be? That boy must have snuck back in and stole the paper, hoping I'd forget his name among the 30,000 students I'm responsible for. Well, he was wrong about that. His name was sudden overpowering rage. I had broken my only rule. So, Mr. Schultz, talk to anyone you have at home. Talk about what you think about Mr. Schultz. And what do you think he's gonna do now? He doesn't have Donovan's name, which he can't call Donovan's parents because he forgot Donovan's name. I wonder what he's gonna do. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it while I drink my water. Alrighty, so chapter 3, I'm gonna read it because now we have Donovan Curtis. So it's called Unexplained, and it says Donovan Curtis, and it says IQ 112. So I'm guessing since last time the chapter said Mr. Schultz, it was from Mr. Schultz's perspective. So that means Mr. Schultz was telling us the story. Now, since it says Donovan Curtis, I have a guess or a prediction that this chapter is going to be told by Donovan. And once we start reading, we'll figure out if that prediction is right. If I didn't die of stress that night, I probably never will. Each time the phone rang, I was convinced it was Schultz, calling to rat me out to mom and dad. All right, so we know it's Donovan talking here. Every knock at the door meant the police were here to arrest the guy who'd bombed a basketball game with the weight of the world. Whenever my dad's BlackBerry pinged, I was positive that was the news flash. It didn't make for good sleeping. Actually, it didn't make for any sleeping. Mom was shocked at the sight of me over the breakfast table. I was studying, I told her with a yawn wide enough to drive a truck through. You look like Wile E. Coyote after the roadrunner drops him off at a cliff, said my sister, Katie. She was 26 and had moved back in with us while her husband was deployed to Afghanistan with the Marines. Thanks, Miss Goodyear, I reported absently. Katie was 7 months pregnant, possibly with the baby hippo. One more wisecrack about my sumo stomach and I'll sit on you, she threatened. You think this is vacation for me? Not for you, for Brad, I returned. He's got an 11,000-mile buffer zone from all this sweetness and light. I regretted it the instant the words passed my lips. Normally, the two of us could go back and forth, insulting each other for hours. But Katie lapsed into a silence, a far-off expression in her eyes. It wasn't hard to figure out the cause of her revere. The father of her unborn child was on the opposite world in a war zone. And even though First Lieutenant H. Bradley Patterson spent most of his time inside the armored shell of a tank, it had to be on her mind that her husband was in a risky line of work. Mom came over and placed her hands reassuringly on Katie's shoulders. Brad's surrounded by the best trained people with the best equipment money can buy. But her daughter's mind turned out to be somewhere else. Beatrice is coming. Beatrice? Mom echoed. You mean Brad's dog? I thought she was staying with your mother-in-law. She was, Katie explained miserably, but Fanny called me this morning. She said she can't cope, and she's coming this afternoon to drop off Beatrice. We're getting a dog? I asked, mildly interested. That mutt hates me, Katie moaned. That's the reason she was supposed to go to Fanny in the first place. Beatrice will never forgive me for taking her place in Brad's life. For all I know, she blames me for getting him shipped out. Like I made deployment decisions for the Marine Corps. She is Your dog too, Katie, Mom lectured, and we'd be delighted to take care of her while Brad's serving his country. Right, Donnie? I'm not touching the poop scoop, I said firmly. My mind was on Schultz, not dogs, that morning. At school, I waited to be called to the office. Between classes, I searched for the summons taped to my locker. Nothing. The anxiety was eating me up from the inside. When the PA announcement finally came, it was almost a relief. Would Donovan Curtis please come to the office? Donovan Curtis to the office? It was the longest walk I'd ever taken. At each open door, hostile faces glowered at me. Remember, I was still the guy who disrespected our beloved basketball team. When the news got around that I was also responsible for unleashing the runaway globe that bowled out the gym, I was really going to be public enemy number one. At last, I rounded the corner and the glassed-in reception area came into view. To my surprise, the angel waiting for me was not Dr. Schultz, but Mr. Fender. When you serve detention with me, Mr. Curtis, you serve it to the end, and you don't leave until I tell you it's time. He went on for a while trying to scare me, I guess. The poor guy had no way of knowing that, considering the payback I was expecting from Mr. Schultz. A rampaging grizzly couldn't scare me. He cut me loose, though, explaining that thanks to the damage to the gym, we students had suffered enough. I had a sneaky suspicion Schultz wasn't going to see it that way. I couldn't say how much anybody had actually suffered, but the disaster at the basketball game was definitely the hot topic at school. When the glass blew out, I thought it was an explosion. It was like an attack. Did you see the statue with the top part missing? It looks like my grandfather when his back goes out. I heard the gym floor is permanently messed up. When they catch the guy who did it, they're going to hang him on a meat hook. Yeah, Nussbaum chimed in. I pity that poor loser. His life isn't worth a used Kleenex. He turned to me. So Donovan, when do you think you're going to get busted? Shh. I pulled the Daniels into the boys' room and checked the stalls for possible eavesdroppers. This is no joke. The walls have ears. Dude, Nussbaum was offended. We'd never rat out our friend. Listen, that call was a false alarm. Just Fender for skipping out of detention. I don't understand why Schultz hasn't came after me yet. Maybe he doesn't know who you are, Sanderson suggested. I shook my head. He wrote down my name. I told him where I go to school. He's the superintendent. He's got to have access to every file and every record there is. Yeah, did you pick the wrong guy to get caught by or what? Nussbaum agreed. The head honcho of the whole district. I'm wondering if it's not as bad as it looked. I mused in a low voice. A little cleanup, a little wood polish. I heard they're going to have to redo the whole gym floor, Sanderson put in. It costs like zillions of dollars. And don't forget the glass doors, Nussbaum added. You're a dead man walking. I totally agreed. So why wasn't it happening? All day long, the following days too, I squirmed while rumors spread like head lice, and the Daniels predicted my downfall. There was no escape from the tension at home, where reports of firefighters in Afghanistan dominated CNN. Then, on Wednesday, Katie's mother-in-law dropped off the dog. The times I'd see Beatrice, she was a rocket-powered hairball. But the cinnamon chow that slunk into our house was listless and mewling. What's wrong with her? Mom asked. She's dying, Fanny declared dramatically and tried to walk out the door. Katie held onto her arm. How do you know that? Did she get hit by a car? Is she sick? Her mother-in-law wasn't interested in the details. I can't cope with this at my age. And with that, she was gone. Mom reached down to pat the dog. Beatrice snapped at her. She tossed a warning growl over her shoulder at Katie, just in case she might be contemplating a similar move. She's too mean to die, I observed. She can't die, Katie said tragically. Brad loves her. Brad loves you, too, I returned. What does that say about Brad? He'll never forgive me if something happens to her. Well, that's not exactly fair, is it? Mom put in. If anything went wrong, it was on Fanny's watch, not yours. That's her whole operation, Katie argued. That's why she's doing it. The minute she saw the writing on the wall, she dumped the dog onto me. And how can we take care of Beatrice if she won't even let us go near her? As if in answer, Beatrice picked herself up off the floor, walked over to me, and lay down right at my feet. Donovan, my mother exclaimed. What did I do? I didn't do anything. Beatrice likes you, Katie said in an awed whisper. So? So you can look after her, Mom reasoned, like this is a huge honor. I declined. Forget it. Besides, if Brad is such a baby about Beatrice, you have to wonder if he's the right person to be in charge of a $20 million tank. But when Beatrice refused to eat, I had to hand feed her a few lumps of liver-flavored kibble. When it was time to take her out, I was the only one she would allow to put her on the leash. When Katie made her a bed in the basement, she wouldn't even go downstairs. I knew I wasn't going to have a roommate. Just call me Dog Whisperer Donovan, as if I didn't have enough hassles. Dad came home at 6, bringing the mail. There's a letter from the school, Donnie. Is there anything you want to tell us before we open it? By the time my tongue was stuck to the roof of my mouth, so I just shook my head and waited for the axe to fall. Who knew how much trouble I was in? Suspended? Probably. Expelled? Not out of the question, especially since Schultz thought I'd done it on purpose. I had done it on purpose, the hitting the statue part anyway. While Dad read, I monitored the telltale vein in the top left corner of his forehead. It bulged a little, but not nearly as much as it did during the aftermath of the toupee lift-off. That had to be considered an encouraging sign. At last, he handed me the letter. You have an explanation for this? Where would I even start? My eyes fell on the page. To the parents of Donovan Curtis, the time has come to recognize your child's hard work and commitment to excellence as a student in the Hardcastle Independent School District. This letter is to inform you that Donovan has been selected to attend the Academy for Scholastic Distinction, ASD, a special program geared toward gifted and talented students, tailored to their exceptional abilities and extraordinary potential for academic achievement. It said more, a lot more, about school transfer paperwork and registration forms and which bus route would take me to the new placement at the academy. I barely saw any of it. My eyes couldn't get past words like excellence, distinction, gifted, and especially Donovan Curtis. Gifted? Me? I was the guy who skateboarded down water slides and shot a super soaker at an electric fence. When people heard my name, they thought, don't try this at home. Not gifted. I wasn't being expelled, I was being promoted. Dad was grinning from ear to ear. I always knew the real problem was that they weren't just challenging you enough. Mom looked worried. Is everything okay? Donnie's gifted, Dad crowed. It's a mistake, Katie scoffed. The kid's about as gifted as Caterpillar. He brings home a B and it sets off 6 days of skywriting and fireworks. Much as I hated to agree with Katie, she had a point. My grades weren't terrible, but they weren't nothing to write home about. Come to think of it, I remembered the day all the nerds and brainiacs took the special aptitude test to see who got into the gifted program. I remembered it because nobody even asked me to give it a try. And I wasn't insulted because I wasn't gifted. My eyes skip down to the bottom page. My heartiest congratulations. Once again, your child is a credit to the Hardcastle Independent School District. Sincerely, Dr. Schultz, Superintendent. Schultz? The only program Schultz would recommend me for was Alcatraz. Didn't he realize who I was? I mean, the guy made a point of getting my name, so he knew exactly who to burn at the stake. We are going to stop right there. I think I'm just as surprised as you are. I think you're surprised. I am. A gifted program is, like it says, is for students that are really hardworking and they're getting all these great grades and they're way above their grade level and they just want a different school to push them further and to challenge them. So I don't know if Donovan and all of his tricks are really fitting in to this gifted program, but I don't know. We'll see. I want you, after reading that, to think about this whole gifted program and how Donovan was recommended for it, how Dr. Schultz sent it home. Why do you think Dr. Schultz did this? Did he do it on purpose? And if he did it on purpose, why do you think he did it? If he did it on accident, do you think Dr. Schultz is going to find out? I don't know, but we'll see on Monday when I come back for the next read aloud. So if you want to comment below the answer to the question that I just asked you, again, the question is, do you think Mr. Schultz put Donovan in the gifted program on purpose or on accident? And why do you think that? All right, comment below and check in on Monday for the rest of, not the rest of the book, but a couple more chapters of Ungifted. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend.